It's Election Day, meaning Americans across the country are heading to the polls this morning to vote in a slate of key races that could provide an early peek into how the public views both the presidency and both political parties heading into 2026. Among the high-stakes showdowns, the battle for mayor of New York, the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia, as well as a redistricting ballot measure in California. In New York City, frontrunner Zohran Mamdani holds a healthy lead in the polls, centering his campaign around affordability. But he faces a fight from former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who continues to sharply criticize his opponent's age, inexperience, and progressive policies. In Virginia, Democrat Abigail Spanberger and Republican Winsome Earle-Sears are both vying to make history. They'd both be the first woman to lead the Commonwealth. Spanberger has a clear advantage, though, in the polls as she seeks to close out her case by tying her opponent to President Trump in an election that's playing out against the backdrop of the ongoing government shutdown. It's a tighter race, though, in New Jersey, as Democrat Mikey Sherrill and Republican Jack Ciattarelli battle for control of the traditionally blue state that has shown some signs of shifting toward Republicans in recent years. And, of course, redistricting is center stage in California, where voters will decide whether to greenlight a new congressional map aimed at flipping 5 Republican seats to Democrats. Polls show that measure is likely to pass in the first major blue state response to similar efforts in red states. It comes as President Trump has made an endorsement in the closely watched New York City mayoral race, and it's not for the Republican running. Instead, the president's throwing his support behind independent Andrew Cuomo. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Trump is endorsing Cuomo. He made that late-night announcement yesterday on social media, urging voters not to vote for the Republican Curtis Sliwa, even invoking the typical red beret that he wears, saying it would be effectively a vote for Democrat Zohran Mamdani if voters were to do that. The president wrote in part, quote, "Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him." The move is a bit of a surprise, given Cuomo's past opposition to Trump and, of course, the fact that there is a literal Republican also running in this race. Additionally, Trump threatened to limit or withdraw federal funding to New York City if Mamdani wins. Mamdani, of course, has been leading in the latest polls ahead of Election Day. We're going to hear more from him coming up just a bit later on Morning Joe. But President Trump also did some e-campaigning for Republicans in Virginia and New Jersey last night, speaking to supporters on tele-rallies. While the president backed Jack Ciattarelli in New Jersey's gubernatorial race, he didn't mention by name Winsome Earle-Sears, who, as we mentioned, is the Republican candidate for governor in Virginia. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, too, right? The way that he seems instead focused elsewhere in the Commonwealth, specifically on the candidate for lieutenant governor, Jay Jones, who wrote in text messages 3 years ago that a top GOP colleague in the State House should be shot in the head. It was a major controversy, rightly so, and Jones has since apologized for those texts.
Despite Jay Jones's calls for murdering his opponents, the Democrat candidates for governor and lieutenant governor, Abigail Spanberger and Ghazala Hashmi, still endorse him 100%. Abigail Spanberger still endorses him, which is not, I don't think, very good politically, but you never know. Let's see how it all turns out. But I think it's a disaster. Tomorrow is Election Day in your state, and you need to go out and vote for Jack Ciattarelli, who's a great guy, a friend of mine, a great guy, a very successful man who wants to put all of his efforts now into really saving New Jersey, making it great again, saving it. And he's going to do it. He'll be able to do it. The polls are looking really good. They're just about even. And they say even for us is a win. You know, it's if you can be even, that means it's a win. We got to be very careful, get out and vote.
And, of course, Jay Jones is running for attorney general there in Virginia. But when you look at the entire slate of Democrats, it makes sense why Trump is trying to tie Jones even more closely to Spanberger, who, again, polls show leading. Want to bring in MSNBC Washington reporter and co-host of The Weekend, Jackie Alemany. So, Jackie, I think it's been fascinating to track the way that the Trump administration is sort of positioning the president at this point, the first real ballot test of his second term, and the fact that he might be telecampaigning, but we know that's not his normal vibe. Why is that? Why are they taking this stance that's sort of like, yeah, we're endorsing in New Jersey, but like we're a little bit of an arm's length away as well?
It's sort of been confounding, Allie, to watch, and also a typical Trump preservation technique.
Yes.
Where when he knows there's maybe a loss coming, he does distance himself. I mean, Virginia is a little bit different than New Jersey right now. He has this grudge against Earle-Sears from 2022, where after a slew of bad midterm performance for Republicans, she came out and said that a good leader knew when to distance himself and when he was a liability for the party. Trump obviously has not forgotten that. He is not one to let go of grudges. So
he holds a grudge.
He altogether has basically stayed out of that race and only said vaguely kind things about her and has not offered an endorsement. And Jack Ciattarelli is the candidate he's been most effusive about, but he hasn't been pounding the pavement the way he normally has for these candidates. Although I think in recent years we have seen in general a little bit of a different approach to on-the-ground rallies and someone who has been a little bit more judicious with his time and obviously focused on very different things right now. A lot of his different construction projects, a Halloween party at Mar-a-Lago, and more of a focus on some of the foreign affairs going on rather than a lot of the domestic activities going on at home.
Yeah, because of course this wouldn't be the first domestic part of the agenda that he has sort of put a distance between himself, sometimes literally a distance of an ocean, because he's been focused, you're right, on foreign affairs at a time when the government has been shut down. We're going to get to that. But I think the thing that he did do last night that was shocking was the way that he endorsed Andrew Cuomo. I think many people had anticipated that behind the scenes, this was Trump's preference. But for people who are waking up this morning saying, is it because I'm exhausted or does this seem weird? It is weird.
Yeah, also New York City is a place that voted for Kamala Harris 36 percentage points over Donald Trump. And as much as Donald Trump would love for New York to become, a deep red state and for him to be the person that is able to turn, the tide of coastal elites and MAGAfy them and get them into the Republican Party, which is Trump's ultimate dream, that's not what's going to happen in New York. And if anything, the thing that we're looking for today is just how much and whether Zohran Mamdani actually gets to 50%, right? Because then that shows that he's not just a Democratic socialist who's kind of eked out this win because he doesn't need to win a majority in order to take it home tonight. Yeah. But does he actually have a mandate with some of his Democratic socialist policies, which at this point are becoming, I think we should acknowledge that it's not really Democratic socialist policies. This topic of affordability has transcended New York City and is becoming really the through line between Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City, just communicated and done in different ways.
Yeah, communicated and done in different ways. And I think there's going to be an interesting story for us to tell tomorrow if, in fact, Spanberger does what the polls say and wins, and then also Mamdani does what the polls say and wins. It's two very different kinds of Democrats focused on kitchen table issues of how do you pay your bills, how do you pay for groceries, but doing it in just two completely different ways. Right. And I think that's going to be a fascinating story for us to tell tomorrow very quickly.
And the other takeaway is that it's a playbook that's not totally Trump-centric. I mean, these candidates have not been attacking Trump the way that we saw in 2017 when there was great antipathy against Trump. And that's not being reflected in the polls, and the candidates have adjusted accordingly.
It's such an interesting point. I mean,